Reddit. How should I mess with trick-or-treaters this year? I always used to tie a rope to my gate. Then when trick-or-treaters walk through, I'd slam the gate shut behind them. Their screams of terror cracked me up. My neighbor cut a 6 inches hole in his porch near his front door and then hid under his porch. When the kids rang the doorbell for candy, he reached up through the hole and grabbed their ankles. 2 kids peed their pants. It was a Halloween miracle. If you have an upstairs window above your door, make a fake body and tie a rope round it with the other end on the window. When they knock, throw it out. Make the rope length so it stops just above the ground. Bonus points if you use a real body. I did this my senior year of high school. I got some baggy pants, a loose-fitting baggy shirt, large work-type gloves, a hat and a mask. I put all of these things on and stuffed the clothes with newspaper, then went and sat in a rocking chair on my front porch with a big bowl of candy and a sign that clearly read take only 2 pieces of candy or something like that. Most of the kids came up and were really polite, only taking a couple of pieces. I ignored them. A lot poked at me, but because I was stuffed with newspaper, they thought I was fake. It helps to be backlit so that they can't see your eyes behind the mask, though you may want to paint the area around your eyes black if there's more light. The fun part came when the older kids came by. They'd poke me, stare really hard at my eyes to see if they could detect movement, and then they'd reach their big grubby hands in ready to take a massive handful, whereupon I'd reach out and grab their arm and give them a nice roar. Pretty sure a couple of them nearly had a heart attack. My absolute favorite part was when a really young girl, probably 6 or 7, dressed as a fairy came up to the door with what I assume was her older sister, like 17 yo. Little girl looked at me really intensely and then asked, "Are you real?" Her big sister had this look on her face like how adorable. She thinks this stuffed scarecrow is real, so I nodded and said very calmly, "Yes, I am. And you can have as much candy as you want." Little girl was totally unfazed, but her big sister nearly peed her pants. There's a group of those living statue people where I used to live who took to dressing up as the weeping angels for the week of Halloween. They would stand around in the main street and wait for people to take pictures of them and then suddenly jump round at them. Or wait for people to stop inspecting them and then follow them down the street and freeze when they turned around. Scared the frick out of me when I walked around a corner and there was one just standing there about an inch from my face. Great fun to watch them though. For a few quid, some of them would let you pick a target to harass. My current idea is a twist on the take one please scare. When someone takes more than one, a spotlight comes on, sirens wail and SWAT cops appear and arrest the perpetrator. Give them healthy things. My husband involuntarily tricked some kids one Halloween. You see, here where I live Halloween isn't really a holiday and nothing we celebrate. We are Swedish, living in Sweden, but like most things popular in the US, we slowly become accustomed to pumpkins, bats and candy frenzy. Well, most people. My husband seemed to have missed this particular tradition completely, and when 3 darling little children in costumes rang on our door shouting trick or treat, my husband shouted back with glee trick or treat with his arms up in the air. I witnessed this event from the living room and nearly died laughing as all 4 of them, husband included, were expecting a treat. We don't eat sweets, so I had nothing to give them. So I buried my head in the pillow and half listened in on these kids educating my husband on the essence of Halloween and him in turn disappointing them with no treats. Awkward. So perhaps you can feign Swedishness and pretend you have no idea why they refuse to give you treats. Don't scare the kids, pee off the parents. Leave a cooler out front filled with cold soda and Red Bull. Then give them tons of candy. Name one kid that won't open the drink while running around the neighborhood and then not sleep all night at least. Or dress yourself as a fake looking scarecrow and sit next to the candy and scare kids as they reach for it. Super glue candy to a bowl. Bonus points if you super glue full size candy bars. When Cal Malone played for the Utah Jazz, I went to his house on Halloween as a little kid. He wasn't there but his wife and daughter were. This was the first time I have ever heard anyone say trick. She made us sing How Much Is That Doggy in the window while doing the hokey pokey. Gave us king size candy bars. Totally worth it. When they knock on the door and say trick or treat, respond with treat, then take a piece of candy from their basket and close the door. Sit on roof. Throw the little popper things on the ground right behind them as they ring the doorbell. should scare them pretty well. Give them old useless junk from out of your pantry. Old ketchup packets from McDonald's and packages of Spam work well as expired boxes of cereal, old cake mix, and saltine crackers that came with the clam chowder you got at Red Lobster. They call it Halloween. I call it fall cleaning. Trick-or-treaters knock. Door opens, but nobody is there to answer. On the floor is a large bowl of sweets and chocolates. Beside it a note saying enter at your own peril. Kids start to walk through the door to find it has cling film on it. Whilst this is happening, you need a group of at least 8 people outside, all wearing farm marks, such as those horse ones that are quite popular. Have them silently walk towards the trick-or-treaters from behind, not saying a word, just staring at the kids looking menacing. Hopefully the kids will get a bit scared and run into the house. Then you need a group already in the house, all acting like a normal family. However, you have farm masks too. The whole family get up to see the commotion and stare at the kids, not saying a word. Then you can do whatever you want to the kids. Once they're in the house, you should have a kid on a surgical table with a bunch of people sawing his body apart while he flails around screaming. That would freak them out even more. Bonus points if you actually saw a kid in half. When you open the door, look straight at the chaperone and look worried, followed by saying, "I am not allowed to be this close to children," and start breathing heavily. Grow a mustache for this one. Just act confused that there are people knocking on your door dressed in costumes. I love the idea of just opening the door, screaming in fright at the children dressed in costumes, then slamming the door in their faces. Bonus, you get all the candy. When I was younger, I went to a house in my neighborhood to trick or treat. Their garage door was open with a plain white chair in front of it, and being young thought nothing out of the ordinary since it was a close-knit neighborhood. I went up to the doorbell and got the candy. I didn't know this at the time, but someone was hiding in the garage, and after you went past the garage they went and sat on the chair. When I was walking back to my parents at the end of the driveway, he stood up and screamed. Pretty sure a little bit of poo came out with that one. Also in my neighborhood there is a house with a long wooded driveway. Typical scary house in my little mind. I was walking up the driveway when I heard rustling in the trees. I started get a bit scared but kept going because candy. Duh. Out pops a grown man in a gorilla costume. I ran to my parents as fast as my stumpy legs could carry me. Wartornglery is now deathly afraid of costumes for many reasons, those being 2 of them. Alternatively, enlisting a buddy, get a cap gun, fake knife and some decent fake blood. Buy a pack of white undershirts. Decorate the house in a banal traditional way with stupid kitschy Halloween festive decorations. When kids come to the door to get candy, come out all saccharine and smarmy. Oh, and what are you supposed to be? Your buddy runs up with said gun knife and proceeds to rob you in front of the kids. You act like you're genuinely getting robbed. Buddy proceeds to stab shoot you, with blood going everywhere. Make a production of it, maybe a wrestle over the knife getting eased into your chest, Saving Private Ryan style. Blood everywhere before your friend howls and runs off into the dark. Rinse and repeat with a new shirt. My friend is hardcore into Halloween. For kids. He had crappy parents who never let him do anything for the holiday, so he goes all out to give the kids in his neighborhood a great time. He's rich as heck and has a huge backyard that he creates into a haunted maze farm sorta thing. Finishes it a few days before the 31st and sends out flyers in his neighborhood inviting parents to check it out firsthand to ensure safety and whatnot. At the end of the maze haunted farm thing, he gives the boss-esque Halloween goodies bags filled with candy, toys, gift cards, etc. He spends thousands to give these kids a great time simply because he never got to spend the holiday as a kid. One year, he scrapped the whole haunted backyard thing and went with a trivia torture chamber. Basically he transformed his foyer into a dark chamber. His girlfriend, dressed as a ghoul, ushered the kid into the foyer and closed the door behind him/her. Inside the foyer, it was pitch black for about 5 seconds, until a small spotlight shone on a stool at the end of foyer about 15 feet away. The game wouldn't start until the kid, on his own, walked up to the stool. If the kid was chicken, he was allowed to leave and left with no candy. On top of the stool was a folded piece of paper with fake blood stains and tears that had 3 simple instructions. 1. When you are ready, say ready and put the paper back down. 2. Listen for the trivia question. 3. You have 5 seconds. Mind you, the foyer is pitch black and once the kid puts the paper back down on the stool, the light turns off. He waits a few seconds to raise the tension and chants a trivia question of moderate difficulty like name the last 2 US presidents or something like that. After he finished administering the question, a timer would start ticking until the kid shouted the answer. 100% of the time, it was a frantic scream, or until the time went up. If the time was up without a right answer, all heck would break loose. We dressed in some real messed up crap. I was an IT clown, one was Leatherface, etc. And we would come out from behind the black curtains with red and fluorescent strobe lights and creepy chant music playing super loud. We didn't emerge immediately after the time was up. Sometimes there was a 3-5 second delay. The crying rate was immensely high, like really high. We made a 25-year-old cry. If you got the answer right or withstood the chamber, the kid got a great prize. This one kid would not stop crying and he was shivering. He got my friend's freaking Nintendo DS. Another young teen girl lucked out and got Bieber tickets because her dad was freaking mad. That evening, about 60 kids came and 4 of them chickened out. Best Halloween ever. Wear a black morph suit, hide, and scare them. Most kids would get scared and hopefully they run away, so more candy for you. Buy a bunch of mayonnaise packets and anyone who isn't dressed up, squeeze the mayo into their bag. My favorite is to simply have a few potatoes in the candy bowl. Act as though they're a choice for trick-or-treaters. As an alternative to candy, keep a straight face and act as though giving away potatoes is a perfectly normal thing to do. I hand out little plastic bags with random assorted resistors and capacitors. If you get LEDs, go build something, you little moochers. Sit still on your porch as if you are a decoration. When they knock on the door, jump up and scream at them to scare them. Then give them a lot of candy for being an butt. Kill the first child to knock on your door, then leave the body just inside the door so each child after will see it and be scared. I know when I was a child, this always scared the pee out of me. I don't know where you live, but the Spirit Halloween store has 2 animatronic spiders, a small one and a big one. When triggered, those suckers lunge at you. The larger one has some ridiculous jump range and both are very, very fast. Scared the crap out of me when I accidentally stepped on the trigger for the demo one in the store. So get one of those, put a bowl of candy on the table, put the spider under the table and the trigger in front of the both, then film it all and put it on YouTube. Last year a friend and I spent some time making some fake bodies and dressing them up to leave them in chairs slumped over like they are dead in front of my house. We then sat with them, dressed poorly and slumped to look dead. We alternated where the candy bowl sat, my lap or his or a fake body's lap, and would jump or grab at the trick-or-treaters when they reached for candy. This has always been pretty good at getting neighborhood kids for me. Note, does not work well with very young kids. Take a chainsaw and remove the chain from it. In the dark you can't tell the difference at all, and to a kid just the sound of that revving engine will scare them shitless. Do with this prop what you wish. Wear a Jason mask and wait in the bushes to jump out and chase them. Leave it plainly visible and don't touch it until some little crap challenges you. Just keep in mind that this may probably be a bit extreme for very young kids, and that there's nothing more unscary than some doofus jumping out with a chainsaw that has just stalled. Keep it warmed up. The most frightening experience I had as a child while trick-or-treating was with the followers. There was a house in my neighborhood where a pretty girl stood on the front porch with a bowl of candy, but there were a few guys in scary costumes standing still in the yard. When you went to get the candy they would move slowly and wordlessly towards you, but nothing ever really happened. That in itself wasn't very scary, but if they ever noticed a particularly scared child, me, they would follow them around 4 blocks afterwards from a distance, always stopping when you turned around to look. I still have nightmares sometimes. If you wanna freak out some kiddies, this is the way to do it. Personally, I'm going to be dressing up as Slenderman and following people around my neighborhood. Cover onions in caramel so they look like caramel apples. Change the name on your mailbox to Sandusky. I like to sneak a couple of Brussels sprouts into their candy bags. Of course I have no way of seeing the result, but just the thought of their WTF reaction upon discovery gives me big laughs. Have a candy bowl in front of a TV which is playing a loop of Jigsaw saying that the candy bowl is filled with hypodermic needles and at the bottom there is a huge king-size crunch bar. Over the next few days, rent some heavy equipment and destroy your front walkway. I mean wreck that crap. Turn it into a hole in the ground. And when it's a hole in the ground, dig it even deeper, like 10-15 feet deep. Then go to Home Depot and buy a fuck ton of broom handles and a tarp. 75 or so. What to do? Spend an evening sharpening the handles while you watch television. Then line your front walkway pit with spikes. Cover the pit with the tarp and cover the tarp with leaves. Sit on your porch on the evening of Halloween with a rocking chair, a glass of whiskey and a cigar. LOL at the hilarity that ensues. I'd hate to be in your neighborhood on the holidays. You and one other person dress up as Mitt Romney and Barack Obama. When they knock, you and the other candidate start debating and eventually you start fighting each other. Then, you use the kids as human shields and faintly decide who is superior. Get a Santa Claus costume and set up some sort of scene like they have at the mall when you get your picture made with Santa, complete with lots of fake snow, glitter, a very Germanic looking red and green throne, the works. But maybe throw up a Christmas tree and other Christmas decorations. Instead of doing trick or treat stuff, ask all the kids what they want Santa to bring them and just generally confuse the heck out of them and get them excited for Christmas. Just to have their hopes crushed when they find out it's not for another 2 months. I have a friend who was going through a bit of a rough patch in mid-October a few years ago. His idea was to dress up, put a mask on, then commit suicide by hanging himself from a tree in the front yard. All the trick-or-treaters would play with his corpse, thinking it was just a decoration, only finding out the next day that it was a dead body they were screwing around with. My friend was, and still is, thankfully, a strange person. I have a friend who sat on his front porch sharpening a real machete in a gas mask. Whenever he heard someone coming, he would very slowly look up. I think that stuff like that works better than the jump out and scare you sort of thing, since it's just creepy as opposed to surprising. Back in the day, my mom was really into Halloween. One year, she got a poker table, the kind with a little removable slat in it, and covered it with a sheet, cutting a hole over where the slat was. Then she painted a shoebox black, also with a hole in the bottom, and used white paint to write "open for candy" on it. Then she filled it with fuzz, set it over the hole in the table sheet, crawled under the table so she was fully concealed by the sheet, and stuck her hand inside of it, so it was resting still on the cotton fuzz. She crouched under that table for freaking hours, freaking the heck out of all the kids that were stupid enough to open that dang box. All she'd do is wait for a kid to open the box and say something like, "It's just a hand," and then she'd pop her hand up curved into claws and they'd run away shrieking their candy-addled little brains out. It was pretty awesome. Every 3 or 4 minutes for hours, I'd hear the sounds of childish terror coupled with my mom's gleeful laughter. Actually, that last part pretty much describes my entire childhood. Quick, like this video fast before Oji gets you. Like this video in 2.1 seconds or she'll take all of it. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.